So this will be the first lecture of our module number 6. Module number 6 is basically of PLC. Okay, so before starting this module, I will first like to inform to each and every student that see, PLC module is also for approximately 20 marks. This is divided into two parts. One is your theory questions, right? These theory questions will be for approximately 8 to 10 marks, and there will be a compulsory, means not question number 1, but there will definitely be a question on PLC ladder diagram. Okay, and this question on PLC ladder diagram will come for approximately 10 to 12 marks. Now this question is very important for you from point of view of this subject also, and overall from point of view of being a logical engineer also. Okay, now this question won't be easy for each and every student. I accept it now only, and it is better if you also accept it at this position. So see, if you are good at logic, if you are good at understanding, this question will be pretty easy for you. It is not that difficult. But if your logic is poor, even I will say that it is better that you don't go for this question. Okay, it is better that you focus on the other questions. So with that taken into account, we will start with our module, right? So first of all, we will start with what is meant by PLC. See, PLC stands for programming. Either it is programming, in sometimes it is called programming, sometimes it is called programmable. Okay, I prefer the word programmable, so I will be using programmable, but some textbooks, some notes use programming. Okay, so programmable logic controller. Okay, so see, what is PLC basically? Now when I taught you the key elements of mechatronics, what were the main key elements of mechatronics? See, over here there was a summation point. From here there was an input signal conditioner. After input signal conditioner there was an analog to digital converter. After analog to digital converter there was this controller. Now what was the function of controller? Basically the function of controller, and see over here the signal was coming from your sensor, right? So what is basically the function of the controller? See, this is the most important, this is the brains of the entire control system. The controller is the brains of the entire control system. So how does a controller work? See, a controller is like an electronic device. It is like your computer. It is generally a microcontroller or a microprocessor, right? Initially, when you're programming, you write a code into this controller, right? Now this code can be written in any language. It doesn't matter. The language can be C, the language can be embedded C. Generally it is embedded C, but nowadays there are some controllers that can be programmed even using Python, right? There are some which can be programmed using C, right? So a code in this language is written inside the microcontroller or microprocessor. What does this microcontroller or microprocessor do? It takes inputs from the sensors. So the sensor sends signal to the microcontroller or microprocessor. Now inside this code, we tell the controller that see, if this signal comes, then you should act like this. If this signal comes, then you should act like this, right? So basically what is happening inside the controller, there are two kinds of inputs. The first input comes from the sensors. These inputs are keep on varying throughout the system, and we write the code only once. The code is generally written only once. It can definitely be changed. That is why the word programmable. But generally, once the application has been fixed that this is what it should be doing, then the code is written. Code is fixed. How the code will be executed, that will change based upon the inputs, right? We will look into this afterwards, but basically understand that we are sending input signals from the sensors, and we have the code written into the controller. Based on the code and the inputs received from the sensors, the controller sends signals to the actuators. Now these actuators perform the actual action on the system. These actuators perform the actual action on the system, and based on this action, the properties of the system change. And this is what we want in the very end, that we want to change the current state or property of the system, right? Of whatever we are trying to work on. That is what we are trying to change. So this is how the microcontroller or microprocessor takes inputs from the sensors and sends signals to the actuators. This is similar to what our brain does in a human body, right? So that is what a controller does, and a PLC is one of the best examples of controllers used in industries. See, till I would say like 5 to 10 years before, right? So say in 2010s, PLCs were very, very important. There was nothing more important than PLC at that time. Since the 2010s, because of the advent of the mobile technology like 2G, 3G, now 4G is also available, 5G is coming into scope, IoT devices have started coming up. So since the 2010s, the amount of dependency on PLC is going on reducing. Industry is slowly moving on to IoT, but still a large number of legacy systems and a large number of existing systems still use PLC to operate. Okay, so PLCs are one of the best and most dependable types of controllers used in industries to date. Okay, to date. Even now, they are used extensively in industries, right? So it is important for you to have a basic understanding of what a PLC is, how it works. Only by having a basic understanding, if you go into a company, right? Nowadays no mechanical company is completely mechanical, right? There is some degree of automation. What is that degree of automation? Who provides that degree of automation? It is the PLCs that provide that degree of automation. Okay, so PLCs are the brains which are automating the mechanical industry. So I am not saying that you should know every detail of PLC, that you should be an expert PLC programmer, but you should know at least the basic commands of PLC, so that if there is any problem in your system, you might at least be able to debug the system. At least you must be able to identify that this is a PLC, these are the inputs, these are the outputs. So that is what is expected from you. That is what the Mumbai University is expecting from mechanical engineering students, that you should have basic understanding of PLC, so that you are able to debug it when you see it in your industries. At least you will know what you are looking at, right? So that was what the function of a controller, and in specifically what is the function of a PLC is. As I said, PLC stands for Programmable Logic Controller. Now, just like any controller, see, for example, let us take a simple example of a video game. Okay, so it can be a mobile game, it can be a computer game, it can be anything. Okay, let us take a role-playing game, RPG game. So in that you have a actor, you have your main hero. Now, when you push the up button, the character moves forward. When you push the right button, left button, down button, the character performs some action, right? Suppose something falls on the character gets hurt. Suppose the character gets touched by some, for example, I will take Mario. Okay, so what happens when Mario falls down a gorge? He dies. What happens when the mushroom touches Mario? The strength of Mario is increased, he levels up, kind of, right? What happens when those things come and touch Mario, those moving things? Mario dies. So what is basically happening? Basically, there are some sort of inputs. Some sort of inputs are given by you through your controller. You are pressing the button, you are pressing the jump button, you are pressing the right button, you are pressing the left button, right? You are pressing the shoot button. So some kind of inputs are given by the user, and some kinds of input are taken from the system itself, right? So using these two kinds of inputs, the main character is controlled, right? This same thing happens in our industry also. For example, suppose that there is some kind of a manufacturing industry. Okay, let rather than manufacturing industry, let us take an example of dairy. Okay, dairy industry. In dairy industry it is necessary that the milk should first be boiled, right? For example, in your Tetra Pak milk, the Tetra Pak milk is boiled first and all the germs are killed first, and then it is packed into a Tetra Pak, right? So it is first necessary to boil the milk, right? Now milk, the Tetra Pak milk can be of different types. It can be either cow milk, buffalo milk, or if there are some special other kinds of milks. For example, in foreign countries there is something known as almond milk and other kinds of milks available, soya milk and all those things. So what you have to do, you have to ensure that the germs in this milk is are killed, right? So to kill these germs, that is pasteurization to take place, what should be done? The milk should be heated above a specific degree of temperature so that all the germs, all the organisms inside the milk are killed, so that it can stay good for a longer amount of time. Now how will you decide how much it should be heated and whether it has reached the temperature or not, and whether or not all the organisms inside it are being killed? Well, first of all, see what will be there. I am giving you a very simple example, not extremely complicated, just to make you understand the importance. Okay, imagine that there is a big vat, and this big vat is completely filled with milk. Okay, it is completely filled with milk. Now the system itself doesn't know, the process or the plant itself doesn't know whether the milk inside this is cow milk or buffalo milk, right? The temperature for cow milk is different, the temperature for buffalo milk is different. It might be, I don't know in real life, but let us assume that it is different conditions for both the milks. So the user has to give an input that it is a cow milk right now, or it is a buffalo milk. Now, based on this input from the user, the system will decide, acha, it is cow milk. So let us say I have to heat it up to 85 degrees Celsius, and I have to keep it at 85 degrees Celsius for 3 minutes. After this, these are all complete suppositions. I don't know anything about the dairy industry. Just giving you an example. So how will the system know whether 85 degrees Celsius has been reached and it has been kept for 3 minutes? So how will you design the system? There will be a temperature sensor over here, right? This will be your temperature sensor. There will be some kind of a heating element present over here, right? This heating element will be controlled somehow. If it is a gas heating element, then over here there will be a valve which will control whether or not the gas is reaching the flame, right? There will be a temperature sensor over here, and to control this gas flow to the heating coil, you will have a controller over here. So the temperature sensor will send a signal to the controller. The controller knows, array, it is cow milk, so I have to keep it at 85 degrees Celsius for 3 minutes. This input signal, whether it is cow or buffalo, it will be like a screen in front of you, or it will be some kind of push buttons in front of you. This signal will also be sent to the controller. So the controller will get two signals. It will get signal from your desk, whether what kind of milk it is, and it will get signal from the temperature sensor. Now based on the code inside it, that for cow it is 85 degrees Celsius for 3 minutes, and for buffalo it is 90 degrees Celsius for 2 minutes. Okay, these are complete random values, but based on this, decision will be taken by the controller, and it will send a signal to the valve. The valve will allow the gases to go into the heating chamber. Over here, because of the flame, the milk's temperature will be increased. As the milk's temperature goes on increasing, the temperature sensor will note the change in temperature. Say it reaches 85 degrees Celsius. Immediately it will send a signal to the controller that 85 degrees Celsius temperature has been reached. What will the controller do? The controller will start a timer inside it, right? The timer will do what? The timer will maintain that it and at the same time it will also send a signal to the heating coil that maintain this temperature, do not increase the temperature any further, so just maintain this temperature right now. So it will reduce the amount of gases going. It will not stop the amount of gases, it will just reduce it by a small amount so that the constant temperature is maintained. And what it will do, it will also start a timer which measures time of 3 minutes, that is 180 seconds. After 180 seconds, what will the controller do? The controller will directly send a signal to the valve that completely block the flow of gases, and by blocking the flow of gases, the flame will be stopped, and by stopping the flame, the heating of the milk will be stopped. So this programming of the controller must be done by someone, right? This programming of the controller must be done by someone, and to do this controller programming, this controller will basically be a PLC, and the programming of this PLC will be done in ladder programming. Okay, ladder programming language or ladder logic as it is called. Okay, there are two things. It can either be called ladder programming language, or generally it is known as ladder logic. Okay, what is happening in this, there you are writing a code which controls all this, which is the kind of input that has come, whether it is cow or buffalo, what is the current temperature, what should happen based on this temperature. This programming is similar to the programming of your video games. In your video games also, there is code written that when the user presses the up button, the character should jump. When the user presses the right button, the character should move forward. When the character falls down something, then the character should die and one life should be reduced. So this programming is generally done in C and C++ languages, but this programming is done in ladder logic programming, and we will be studying how to make this ladder logic programming. Okay, so hopefully all these things are clear to you, hopefully, right? Before moving any further with ladder logic, I will be explaining to you the ladder logic programming in this lecture also. We will write a small program in this lecture. But before going to ladder logic, first let us take a look at relay logic. Okay, we learned the basics of relay logic in electro-pneumatics, electro-hydraulics, right? So imagine that I have to make a circuit, not a hydraulic pneumatic circuit. I have to make a simple circuit for this milk kind of a thing, right? The milk boiling condition, right? We won't go so complicated, but we will try to do that. Right? We will remove the timer and just keep it that it reaches this temperature, and after this temperature the system stops. So basically, what kind of system do I want to make? In the system that I want to make, there will be this vat, there will be this heating element over here which is powered through this valve which controls the flow of gases to this heating coil. It is filled with milk, right? So to fill this with milk, there should be a input kind of valve which allows milk to come inside, right? Because milk will not be poured into it by men, right? It will come into it through some kind of a pipe. After it has been heated to a specific temperature, again one valve should be open so that it is taken further for further processing and packaging, right? So in this system, and there will be there will also be a temperature sensor over here, and there will additionally be level sensors over here to sense whether the milk has reached a certain level or not. Okay, so basically what all things does this system have? This system has mainly three things. What are those three things? There are sensors, there are actuators, and there is a controller. Okay, so though there are several sensors and several actuators, there is a single controller. So what are the sensors that are being used over here? The sensors include a temperature sensor, right? What is the function of the temperature sensor? The temperature sensor is sensing the current temperature of the milk. There are two level sensors, right? One at the highest position, one at the lowest position. What is the highest position level sensor doing? The highest position level sensor will be used. See, first of all, this tap will be open, this valve will be open, so milk will come into the tank. Milk will reach this higher level sensor. As soon as this higher level sensor is sensed, the valve will be closed, and by closing this valve, the further input of milk will be stopped, right? And what is the function of this lower level sensor? This lower level sensor will be used to sense whether all the milk has been removed from the tank or not. Initially, after the heating has been done, see, initially milk will come into this. Okay, how will the process work? Initially, let us call this the inlet valve, and let us call this the outlet valve. Okay, what will be the first thing that happens? Inlet valve opens, right? Inlet valve opens, so milk comes into the tank. Then what happens? Then higher level sensor is sensed, right? This higher level sensor is sensed. As soon as higher level sensor is sensed, what should happen? Inlet valve closes. As soon as inlet valve closes, what should happen? The gas, or rather I will call it heating element, should start. So heating will start. After as soon as heating starts, what will happen? The temperature sensor will keep on sensing the temperature. When temperature reaches set point, now whatever the set point might be, 85 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees Celsius, 120 degrees Celsius, but temperature will reach the set point. As soon as the temperature reaches the set point, what should happen? Heating element should stop, right? As soon as heating element stops, what should happen? Outlet valve opens, right? Outlet valve opens, so the milk starts coming out. Then what happens? Lower level sensor is desensed, right? Because the milk is coming out, lower level sensor is desensed. As soon as lower level sensor is desensed, what should happen? Outlet valve closes, and this cycle should continue infinitely, right? This cycle should continue infinitely. So what were the sensors that are being used? There is a temperature sensor, there are two level sensors. What are the actuators that are being used? There are three actuators. First is the inlet valve, which is allowing the milk to come into the tank. There is an outlet valve, which is allowing the milk to go out of the tank, and there is a heating element, right? Then what is the function of controller? The controller is controlling this entire process, right? It is taking inputs from the sensors and basically controlling the actuators, right? So we have to program this controller. Now, before the use of PLC, see, PLCs came at what they became popular in the 1980s, right? Even before the 1980s, things were automated. Okay, some things were automated. So at that time, if I had to make this circuit, what kind of circuit would I have made? I would have made a circuit using relay logic, right? So I will explain to you how this circuit would have worked. See, basically it would have been a very complicated circuit. I cannot draw it completely over here, but see, basically how the circuit would have worked. There would have been some power source, right? This is the power source. Let us say this is some kind of battery or AC power source. This is the power source. Then what would have happened? See, initially what is the first thing that should happen? The first thing that should happen is the inlet valve should open, right? So let this be the symbol for inlet valve. So inlet valve opens, right? So I will draw this completely. Now when should the inlet valve close? Inlet valve should close as soon as the upper level sensor is sensed. So as soon as the upper level sensor is sensed, it should turn off. So what kind of a switch we will use over here? We will use a NC switch. We will use a NC switch of upper level sensor. So that as soon as the upper level sensor is sensed, the circuit becomes open and the inlet valve is shut off, right? This will be the circuit for the inlet valve. Similarly, there will be a circuit for the outlet valve. What will be the, see, I am drawing a very simplified version. It will be actually much more complicated than this. but there will be another circuit for outlet valve. Say this is my outlet valve, right? What is the outlet valve? How is the outlet valve controlled? As long as the lower level sensor is sensed, the outlet valve is open, right? After the heating has completed, right? So there will be some kind of an input from the sensor over here that the heating has been completed. Then there will be a NO switch. Okay, I will explain all this afterwards, but there will be a NO switch of what? Of the lower level sensor, right? This is what? This is to control the outlet valve. Then there will be a third circuit separately for controlling the heater. Okay, there will be inputs, there will be outputs, and there will be a large number of things over there, right? So these circuits will have to be made physically, right? We will actually have to join wires to each and everything, right? And if there is for any matter any change, that for example tomorrow you want that it should not happen that the upper level sensor should the milk coming in should stop automatically when the lower level sensor is changed, right? Imagine, see, this is your tank. Okay, I'm just giving you some examples, right, to explain to you why PLC is important, right? So this is your pipe. You have placed the lower level sensor over here. So what do you want? Initially you wanted that as soon as lower level sensor was desensed, this valve should close. This valve should close. But afterwards you found out what? You found out that some amount of milk is always left below. So after some days you decided that even after the lower level sensor is desensed, this valve should remain open for 20 seconds. Okay, in this case what will you have to do? You will have to go to the circuit. You will have to buy a timer. You will have to add a timer into this circuit to ensure that this circuit remains on for 20 seconds after the outlet valve, after the lower level sensor has been desensed. Okay, so these circuits were extremely complicated to make. Not only were they complicated to make, they were extremely complicated to manage, and whenever there were any changes that had to be made in the relay circuits, it was very difficult to make those changes in the relay circuit, right? See, this is not all, this isn't in your syllabus. I'm just telling you why PLCs became so important, right? So whenever you wanted to change the circuit, whenever you wanted to change the working of the circuit, it was extremely difficult to do that. To overcome this problem, PLCs were introduced. Okay, PLCs were introduced. By using PLCs are like very easy. Your connections do not change. The only thing that changes is the code that you write inside the PLC. For example, see, in case of pure pneumatic circuits, when we wanted to change the motion, see, in case of pure pneumatic circuits, when the motion was A plus B plus A minus B minus, and when the motion was A plus B plus B minus A minus, the circuit itself, the limit switches itself had to be changed, right? Basically the pneumatic circuit itself had to be changed when we wanted to change the motion. But when we were talking about electro-pneumatics, right, when we were talking about electro-pneumatics, we did not have to change the circuit at all, right? We did not have to change the pneumatic circuit. We had to change the control circuit. That control circuit is the circuit which is written inside the PLC, right? So there are no physical changes in the connections. The connections remain same. The only thing that changes is the code inside the computer, right? So it is always easier to change the code inside a computer. See, you can sit in a comfortable chair, you can sit in a comfortable AC and just use your mouse and keyboard to make the changes. But if you want to change the physical connections, it is so difficult to change the actual physical connections, right? That is why PLCs are very useful. PLCs help you to change the code, help you to change the working of the system without changing the connections. They can be changed only through the program. Okay, so this is the importance of PLC. So first of all, we will see a very simple example of PLC, and with that I will conclude today's lecture, because I just don't want to force a lot of knowledge into you right now. Okay, I just want to impress upon you that PLCs are very important, rather were very important and still are important, at least for the next 5 6 years. But PLCs form the basics of all the programmings that is used in industries nowadays. Okay, so imagine it is a very simple system. Okay, what is the simple system that we have to design? See, there is a conveyor belt. Okay, sorry, extremely sorry, right, there is this conveyor belt over here, and on this conveyor belt now there is some kind of a package which comes, right? This package moves forward, and over here you have a labeling machine. Okay, over here you have a labeling machine. So this package comes forward, this package comes over here. As soon as the package comes over here, this labeling machine has to move down, attach a label to this package, and then the package will move forward. Okay, so the working is very simple. What is the working? That at present in this first example I will be controlling only this. I will be controlling only the label attacher. I will not be controlling the conveyor belt. Okay, just to explain to you, afterwards when we start solving the real sums, I will explain to you the entire circuit. Okay, so right now what is the thing that we are going to do? We are going to make a system in which when the box moves forward, when it reaches this specific position, the label attacher should come and attach the label, and it will automatically go back. Right now we won't worry much about it. It will automatically go back, and then the see, when it comes over here, we are not controlling the this conveyor belt at all. We are controlling only the label attacher, right? So, and to sense whether or not the box has come over here, see, how will we know that the box has come over here? So we are used a proximity sensor over here. Okay, we have used a proximity sensor over here. So what does our system consist of? Our system consists of a conveyor belt, a proximity sensor, and a label attacher. Okay, this is some kind of a piston kind of a thing. Let us say not piston, I don't want you to confuse electro and electro-pneumatics, electro-hydraulics with this, though we can control electro-pneumatics and electro-hydraulics with PLC. I just do not want to confuse you right now. Let us say it is some kind of a mechanical label attacher. Okay, so that label attacher comes, it attaches the label to this box, and the box keeps moving forward. Again I repeat, we are not controlling the conveyor, right? So first of all, always remember, whenever you are writing a program, not only a PLC program but any program in your life, you should first write all the steps in English. Okay, so what is the first step that is happening? First step that is happening is box is moving forward, right? The box is moving forward. After the box moves forward, at some point it will get sensed by the proximity sensor. So we will write proximity sensor is sensed. As soon as the proximity sensor is sensed, what should happen? The label attacher should activate, right? Basically turn on, right? So it will attach the label, it will go back. By the time the label attacher goes back, the box has moved ahead and the proximity sensor is desensed, right? So this is a simple circuit that we have to make, right? Now how to start making this circuit, how to start making any PLC program? So the first step always is to write the inputs and outputs. Okay, the first step is to write all the inputs and outputs. Always remember, sensors are inputs and actuators are outputs. Okay, so what are the inputs? The sensors are the inputs. I am just giving you a simple example right now. It is not practical example, but just to make you understand, right? So what is the sensor? The sensor is a proximity sensor, right? There is a proximity sensor, that is your input. For now we will call this PS. What is the output? The output is your label machine. Okay, label attacher. Okay, just I'm giving it any name right now. Let us call it LA. Right, now how to draw this circuit? Okay, in PLC programming, the language that we are going to learn is known as ladder logic. Okay, or ladder programming language. Why is it called a ladder programming language? Because it looks like a ladder. See, you know a ladder, shidi, right? So this ladder looks like this. So in a ladder, each step is known as a rung, RUNG. Okay, each step is known as a rung. So in our system also we have these several rungs. Now these two vertical lines are your voltage lines. These two vertical lines are your voltage lines. So this left vertical line is your positive voltage. So it is plus 24 volt, and the right voltage line is your negative voltage, which is also 0 volt. Okay. So in each PLC program or diagram that you write, you will first have to draw two vertical lines. The first will be the positive voltage, second will be the ground. So this will be plus 24 volt and this will be ground. Okay, now see, when I connect any let us say I connect a bulb over here. Okay, if I connect a bulb like this, current will flow through the bulb because one side it is 24 volt, another side it is ground. So current will flow through the bulb and the bulb will glow, right? This is what will happen. But imagine that before connecting the bulb, what do I do? Before connecting the bulb, I connect a switch over here. So when this switch is open, this bulb will not glow, and when this switch is closed, the bulb will glow. So basically, by attaching a switch over here, I am controlling when the bulb will glow and when the bulb will not glow. This same thing is being done in our system. In our system, the role of bulb is being played by the label attacher, and the role of the switch is being played by the proximity sensor. What does it mean? That whenever proximity sensor is sensed, the label attacher should get activated, and whenever the proximity sensor is desensed, the label attacher should get deactivated. So how can we draw it using our regular symbols? Using our regular symbols, we will draw the NO of our proximity sensor. This is the NO of our proximity sensor, and this will be the output of our label attacher, right? So whenever proximity sensor is sensed, what is going to happen? NO is going to get converted into FC, and the label attacher will get activated. As soon as the proximity sensor is desensitized, the label attacher will get deactivated, right? So this is the circuit that we have to make. But in ladder logic, the symbols are a bit different. I will teach you these symbols in the next lecture. For an NO connection, we use this symbol. This is the symbol for an NO connection. And for any kind of output, we use this symbol. See, why were these symbols used? See, these symbols were the symbols which are easily available on the keyboard. Okay, that is a simple logic. Imagine this is all being done in the 1980s. PLCs are programmed using computers. Nowadays there are other methods, but in 1980s the only way of programming a PLC was using computers. So you need to use symbols which are available on the keyboard. So these symbols, this is your closed square bracket, this is your open square bracket, this is your open circular bracket, this is your closed circular bracket. So these symbols were available on the keyboards. That is why these are the symbols given to this. So this becomes your NO proximity sensor, NO switch of your proximity sensor, and this becomes your output, which is your label attacher. Okay, so whenever proximity sensor is sensed, NO will get converted to NC, circuit will close, electricity will flow to the output, and the output, that is the label attacher, will get activated. So it will come down and put the label. But whenever the proximity sensor is not sensed, the circuit will be open and the label attacher will not get any electricity. That is why the label attacher will be off. So this is what is done in a PLC, and this is what we will be learning in our PLC programming. So hopefully you have understood at least a bit basics of the PLC. From the next lecture, you will start learning about the symbols of PLC, how the coding is done, how the program is written, and some other theory part of the PLC as well. Okay, so thank you.